Part 38. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 371. The family recognition feast lasted nearly 3 hours. Except for Zhang Nashuan, who still had some unfinished thoughts. He felt that he still had a lot to say to his granddaughter, and wanted to ask Gao Lan about some interesting things about his granddaughter's childhood. Everyone else felt that they were finally relieved. Especially Zhang Anfeng and Lin Yi. After a meal, I always feel, I can do without them. Zhang Lingzi sent a message to the driver waiting outside when she was leaving the box. After receiving the reply, she was about to put her phone back in her bag when she felt a vibration. She thought it was from Shen Yunqing. After unlocking it, she saw a flashing profile picture wearing a red suit and sunglasses. She couldn't help but glance at Zhang Lingzhou, who was walking not far in front of him, speechlessly. The other person just turned around and blinked. Zhang Lingzi. From the previous life to this life, this is the first person who dares to ogle her so blatantly. She clicked on her profile picture. Ms. Zhang, would you like to go have a drink together later? It's at a club owned by my friend. Don't worry, it's very private. After scanning the message content, she decisively added the person to the blacklist. If it weren't for this piece of information, she would have almost forgotten about it. With such a delay, a box door not far behind him was opened from the inside. Brother, why is this director Chen so ignorant? You don't know what you did. Why didn't you tell me before you came that the girl jumped from a building and became paralyzed from a high position? Well, you didn't even ask. Chen Rui almost couldn't help but kicked him. This is the key, okay. I want to break your legs too. There is a high probability that this road will not work, so we can only find a way to make a fuss through other places. Then let's go. Stop talking, I'm afraid I won't be able to help but slap you. Zhang Lingzi paused slightly and turned her head to look at the two figures reflected in the glass bottle decoration on the high table in front of her. Chen Rui, Chen Ju, it's a coincidence. The director Chen mentioned by these brothers must be Chen Yiwen, right? Are you trying to make a fuss about the later editing of the program by following Chen Yiwen's path? As she walked forward, Zhang Lingzi said silently in her heart, Director Chen, hold on. The other party shouldn't let her down, right? Zhang Lingzhou accompanied his grandfather and little cousin to the door of the restaurant. He finally found an opportunity to take out his mobile phone and took a look. He didn't see a reply, so he couldn't help but look up in Zhang Lingzi's direction, and then typed another question mark. A bright red exclamation mark suddenly appeared in front of the question mark. Emperor Zhang Lingzhou suddenly stared at the screen of his mobile phone with wide eyes and disbelief. Having lived smoothly for more than 20 years, only people have always asked him to be friends. This is the first person who dares to directly block him in person. Seeing that the person was about to get into the parked black business car, his hands were faster than his brain for a moment. When Zhang Lingzhou came to his senses, he had already stretched his hand towards the other person's shoulder, ready to stop the person and ask him clearly, why he was blocked. Zhang Lingzi was too lazy to stay where she was with the Zhang family and was about to go back to the car to wait for Zhang Nashuan to say goodbye to Su Ling'an and Gao Lan. When she noticed the movement behind her, she didn't even think about it. She ducked sideways and at the same time stretched out her hand to twist with precision. Holding the extended arm, he directly pressed the person against the car glass. It wasn't until his face was pressed against the cold car glass and his arm was twisted in the opposite direction that it hurt, that Zhang Lingzhou realized how embarrassed he would look like. It hurts, let go quickly, my arm is going to be broken. This incident also successfully interrupted Zhang Nashuan's reluctant farewell to his granddaughter. The old man turned his head and looked over. When he saw clearly what was going on, his face turned completely black. He opened his mouth and shouted loudly, Zhang Lingzhou, you bastard! Lin Yi's face darkened. How could the old man scold his own grandson without asking what just happened? From her point of view, her son just wanted to say hello to Miss Zhang, but Miss Zhang overreacted and even took advantage of her. Zhang Nashuan naturally had no intention of paying attention to his daughter-in-law's face. He quickly stepped forward and slapped his grandson directly on the head. Zhang Lingzhou happened to be twisting his head hard and wanted to ask his grandfather for help. In the blink of an eye, he was slapped by the slap. Went back. His head collided with the car glass again, making a muffled sound. Even more confused. Why did you beat him again? He is the one who was controlled and injured. But Grandpa had already finished beating him and ignored him. In his ears that were buzzing from the impact, he could only hear the voice of Grandpa apologizing to Zhang Lingzi, "Miss Zhang, this brat has been spoiled by his parents. He is neither old nor young, he needs to be cleaned up. But he is thick-skinned and your hands are much more valuable than his, so don't hurt him." Zhang Anfeng. Lin Yi. At this moment, they really want to know how valuable Zhang Lingzi's hands are, and how worthy the old man is of saying such words. Zhang Lingxian couldn't help but look at Zhang Lingzi's hands. Thinking of the words Yi Sheng showed her last night, she opened her mouth but didn't say anything. Zhang Lingzi let go of his hands and brushed off the non-existent dust on his hands. "I'll give Mr. Zhang this face." If Zhang Lingzhou dared to touch her like this, in his previous life, he would have had his hands and feet broken off. She was not lying when she said that she should take Fei seriously. Zhang Nashuan nodded, looked at his grandson who had regained his freedom with disgust, and kicked him again. "Get away from me." Lin Yi quickly stepped forward and took hold of her son, whose arm was still hanging down. She wanted to express concern, but she didn't dare in front of the old man. He could only ask his son to stand behind him with a distressed face, and at the same time couldn't help but cast a resentful look at Zhang Lingzi. Su Ling'an walked to her sister and just took out a disinfectant wipe from her bag and handed it over. When she raised her eyes, she noticed her aunt looking over at her. She took a deep breath and pursed her lips. Zhang Lingzi took the tissue and wiped her fingers. "Mr. Zhang, there is still a show tomorrow, so I will take an back first." Zhang Nashuan glanced at his granddaughter standing next to Zhang Lingzi, and nodded reluctantly. "Then be careful on the road. When Anan gets home, send a message to Grandpa to say that she is safe." Su Ling'an nodded, paused. "Grandpa, too." Zhang Nashuan was stunned for a moment when he was called out, but after he realized what he was doing, he couldn't help but laugh out loud. This kid is finally willing to call him Grandpa. This time when they got in the car, Su Lei sat in the passenger seat and Zhang Lingzi went to the back seat. As the car door closed and the car started, the Zhang family members who were still standing at the door of the restaurant were immediately left behind. Gao Lan glanced at Zhang Lingzi's red hands that had been wiped with a tissue, and then couldn't help but say, "That little son of the Zhang family is really outrageous. How can you reach out to a girl and pull her home as soon as you meet her? She deserves to be beaten." After saying that, Su Ling'an was untying the bracelet on his wrist. "Hey, Anan." Su Ling'an couldn't untie it for a while, so he simply broke the buckle on the bracelet and said in a dull voice, "I don't like wearing this." Mainly because she didn't like the person who gave her the bracelet. There is nothing Gao Lan doesn't understand. She has eyes and has seen it. Not to mention that the children she raised have very sensitive minds from childhood to adulthood. Whether it is true or false, you can feel it with just a little contact. Since you don't like it, then don't wear it. Come on, Grandma will keep it for you. And the laptop, Grandma, let's take it back too. Good. Gao Lan put his arms around Su Ling'an's shoulders, and did not regard Zhang Lingzi sitting on the other side as an outsider. He said bluntly, "Your grandpa really cares about you, and Grandma can see it. It doesn't matter to others, just be polite in the future." Zhang Lingzi nodded in agreement and stroked the sullen little girl's hair. "They don't like us, Anan, it's their loss." Su Lei also turned around and looked over. Anan, your aunt, ahem, I didn't mean to say bad things about her. Before you guys came here, she treated me as a gangster and wanted to drive me away. And your uncle, I'm also a bit contemptuous. I even wore a suit specially for today's occasion. Later, when I entered the box, your grandfather talked to me and praised me. Didn't you see the expressions on the couple's faces at that time? If I hadn't been worried about the occasion. I can't help but laugh out loud. Miss Zhang is right, it's definitely their loss if they don't like you. It's really our fault that they like you. Su Linghan looked at the three pairs of eyes that were looking over at him, sniffed and nodded seriously, yeah, it's not unusual. She could actually guess some of it herself, especially when her grandfather said that he would fully support her in her own projects in the future. She could see the changes in the expressions of the so-called uncles, aunts, and cousins at that moment. Did you just think that she was here to fight for Grandpa's property? From that moment on, she completely gave up hope on the rest of the Zhang family except her grandfather. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 372. Watching the car leave, several people looked at the old man who was still standing there without moving. Zhang Anfeng took 2 steps forward and said, "Dad, shall I take you back?" "No, Zhang Ye will drive over right away." Zhang Nashuan waved his hand, "It's getting late, so you all should go back quickly." Seeing that the old man had no other instructions, Lin Yi quickly looked at her younger son with concern. "Xiaozhou, how are you? Does your arm still hurt?" It's better than before." Zhang Lingzhou moved his arms carefully, and couldn't help complaining in a low voice with a wrinkled face, this Zhang Lingzi, looking at her thin arms and legs, didn't expect her hands to be so strong. Zhang Nashuan hadn't left yet. He turned around when he heard the sound, frowned and looked at the mother and son. "Is Miss Jiang's name something you, a brat, can call you?" Zhang Lingzhou couldn't help but tense up whenever he heard the old man's voice. Otherwise, Zhang Lingzi is probably not even older than him. Is it possible that she still calls her aunt? Lin Yi, who originally wanted to complain, quickly changed her words. "You two, why are you provoking Miss Zhang when you have nothing to do?" Zhang Lingzhou was slapped on the back by his mother again. Every mistake is his fault. God knows that he originally only wanted to invite people to have a glass of wine and some late-night snacks. Of course, if the atmosphere is right and you and I are willing, it would be nice to spend a wonderful night together. But the fact is that he was blocked in front of him. He has not yet had time to express his grievance. Remembering that his own sister had not said anything yet, he turned his head and cast a comforting look. "Zhang Lingxian, you deserve it." She is in a bad mood now, and she feels particularly displeased with this younger brother. How can a person with such a moral character who can't walk in the right way when he sees a good-looking person be valued more by his father? "Grandpa, Dad, Mom, my daughter is very sleepy Yishan and I have to go to work tomorrow morning, so we'll go back first." When he said this, Zhang Lingxian looked at his grandfather expectantly. This place is a bit far away from where she and Yi Sheng live, but it is much closer to the museum. Will Grandpa let them stay nearby for one night? Anyway, Su Ling'an had already left by car, and the already arranged residence was empty. Zhang Nashuan met the eldest granddaughter's eyes and nodded lightly. "Go, be careful on the road." Zhang Lingxian took a deep breath and forced a smile. "I understand, Grandpa." Zhang Ye drove over, and as soon as he got off the car, he noticed something was wrong with the atmosphere at the door. "Step forward and call everyone one by one, Uncle, Uncle Feng, Aunt Lin, Xiaozhou." Zhang Anfeng gave him a cold look. Ever since this boy fell into the old man's eyes in the past 2 years, he has become like a close confidant. He was sure that it was Zhang Ye who was busy doing the paternity test between the old man and his cheap niece. What a shame, she didn't reveal any information to him, and caught him off guard. It was almost revealed that he secretly had an illegitimate child. Zhang Ye suddenly broke into a layer of sweat on his forehead when he saw it. He knew this was the result. The older the old man gets, the more willful he becomes, and his temper becomes stronger day by day. The younger people around him are also willing to obey, for fear of upsetting the old man, but he seems to be filial and obedient. But who doesn't have some thoughts of his own these days? He has watched with cold eyes in the past few years. In the past few years, Uncle Feng's son was almost half sincere and filial to the old man. Now, he is seeing that the old man is becoming more and more difficult to serve, and he still firmly controls the property in his hands and does not want to do anything about it. In terms of distributing it to future generations, this filial piety is estimated to be only 3 points. Now that the old man has another granddaughter, for Uncle Feng, it is equivalent to having another person competing for the family property. The old man will even compensate his granddaughter a lot because of his guilt. It's no wonder that Uncle Feng's family is happy. But this is not something he can interfere with. Besides, it was because of the old man's appreciation that he was able to sit in this position now. Between the old man and Uncle Feng, even if Uncle Feng will be his boss in the future, he still prefers the old man in his heart. As a human being, you must know how to repay kindness, right? However, now that the old man has found his granddaughter, the final destination of the Nashuan Private Painting and Calligraphy Museum 100 years from now is still uncertain to whom it will end up. After thinking about this, Zhang Ye calmed down a lot when faced with Zhang Anfeng's cold glance. Even after helping the old man get into the car, he turned around and nodded to the couple who were looking over and said goodbye before returning to the cab. Zhang Anfeng held it in for a long time, and finally couldn't help but snorted coldly, "This Zhang Ye is really a good dog for the old man to keep." Lin Yi glanced at her husband and complained, "I don't know, I thought Zhang Ye was the old man's biological son. I am so close to a distant relative who is beyond my reach, but I don't think I am so kind to you, my biological son." This is undoubtedly another spoonful of oil poured on Zhang Anfeng's already burning forehead. "Okay, stop blocking the door, let's go back to the box." He must not allow this situation to develop in the direction he least wants. The old man is currently very passionate about his granddaughter, but it doesn't matter, let's think about it in the long run. How can he deal with a little girl? Lin Yi was about to follow her husband when she caught sight of her youngest son who was about to run away from the corner of her eye. "Where are you going?" Zhang Lingzhou paused and said, "Dad, Mom, my son won't disturb you. I can go back alone." "Where to go? Your bachelor apartment or the bar owned by your gang of friends?" Zhang Lingzhou. Can my own mother not be so perceptive? He was blocked, beaten, and scolded today. Now he is very depressed. He is really planning to go to the bar to have a drink to relieve his mood. But the answer was impossible to answer so honestly. "I'm on a plane and a car today, and I just entertained my little cousin I found again. How can I still have the energy to go clubbing? I must go back to the apartment." Lin Yi then remembered that her son had a full schedule for the day, and that he had come back so specially that he still couldn't catch up. She couldn't help but feel soft. Go back and have a rest early. The fact is that none of Mr. Zhang's family, who were divided into 3 groups and returned to their respective residences, could sleep well. As soon as I closed my eyes, all that came to my mind was the old man's heartfelt love for Su Ling'an at the dinner table. In comparison, they all turned into unwanted weeds on the roadside. Think again about the land deed of the house in the old man's name, the private museum, the calligraphy and paintings of famous artists collected in this life, and the large dowry left by the old lady who came from a family that has been in the family for hundreds of years. How can I sleep when there are so many things in front of me that I cannot touch, and they may even slip away right under my nose? Asterisk. Sent grandma and brother Xiaoli home first, Su Ling'an followed Zhang Lingzi back to the crew hotel. It was past 10 o'clock when we arrived at the hotel. Su Linghan took out her cell phone in the elevator and checked the time, and saw that her grandfather had sent her a message a quarter of an hour ago. Grandpa is already home, where is Anand? Grandpa is also here, in the hotel elevator. Okay, don't you have to film tomorrow? Remember to go to bed early and don't play with your phone too late. By the way, Grandpa has sent you a few photos of the newly decorated room. Take a look at it first. If you don't like anything, just tell Grandpa directly so that he can rearrange it. Su Linghan had just clicked on the first picture sent under this message, and the elevator door opened. Zhang Lingzi turned her head and glanced at the little girl who was looking at her mobile phone with her head lowered. She reached out and pushed her back. Get out of the elevator first and then play with your mobile phone. Su Linghan pursed her lips in embarrassment, put down her phone and got out of the elevator first. Walking in the corridor, she said softly, "Sister, my grandpa just sent me some photos of the decorated room." The two of them met and looked through several photos. Zhang Lingzi nodded. The old man has good taste. What she said was not a compliment, it was even a bit conservative. If you read it correctly, the rosewood carved makeup bundle placed on the dressing table in the corner of the picture just now seems to be an antique that is over 500 years old. As expected, there should be some jewelry or something inside. To be able to be put into such an antique gift box, even if it is not an antique, I would be embarrassed to be put in it. Not to mention the calligraphy and paintings hanging on the wall opposite the bed, all of which were handwritten by the old man. She had checked before that such a painting could be auctioned for millions or even tens of millions if placed outside. The key is many people hold large sums of money in their hands and cannot ask for anything, and now they act as if they are giving away money for nothing. The old man is really willing to give up? However, if Mr. Zhang and his family saw this picture, they would probably be jealous. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 373. Arrived at the door of the room, Su Linghan gently tugged on Zhang Lingzi's sleeve and hesitated, "Sister." Zhang Lingzi raised her hand and knocked on the door. When Lu Zhengzheng was in the room, she opened the door and took the person in. Lu Zhengzheng saw Su Linghan and took another pair of slippers and handed them over. "Sister Zixi, Anand, how are you? Did the marriage recognition party go well?" The two people who were asked looked at each other and nodded in unison. It was indeed quite smooth for them. As for the one on the opposite side, I don't know whether it will go well or not. "Zhengzheng, please order some midnight snacks for me and Anand." She had eaten her fill at the dinner table before, but as the absolute protagonist of this recognition banquet, Su Linghan didn't eat much except for some that she and Gao Lan gave her. "Ah, okay." Lu Zhengzheng was stunned for a moment, turned around and picked up the mobile phone on the coffee table and started to place an order. "I just happen to want to eat it too." Zhang Lingzi pulled Su Linghan to sit down on the sofa, poured a glass of water and handed it over. "What were you hesitating about just now?" "I'm not sure, should I stay in that furnished room?" Su Linghan lowered her eyes and looked at the water in the cup. The ripples were very much like her heart that was constantly fluctuating at the moment. "I can see it from those pictures. I was very careful when I announced the arrangements, but if I really went there to live there, Mr. Zhang Da's family would be very unhappy." "No, but sister, don't get me wrong, I'm not afraid that they will be unhappy, the main thing is." Zhang Lingzi interrupted her hesitation and said coldly, "You are afraid that the old man will be angry if he notices that the eldest son's family is dissatisfied with the room. You think if you just don't live there, you won't have so many things to worry about." Su Linghan pursed his lips and nodded lightly. "Well, he is already so old. Being angry is not good for his health." Zhang Lingzi couldn't help but reached out and rubbed her head. "Tell me, at a young age, Why do you have so many worries? Be careful and you won't grow taller if you think too much. Su Ling'an, I'm already 18. 18 years old is still a kid in my eyes, Zhang Lingzi said, glancing at the phone that reminded her that there was a message coming in. She held it in her hand and did not immediately check who sent the message. And they are already dissatisfied. It doesn't matter whether you go to live there or not, after all, the house is already there. Su Ling'an lowered his eyes in silence. Zhang Lingzi looked at her silent profile and asked directly, have you ever thought about why the old man's eldest son's family is hostile to you? Su Ling'an hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Zhang Lingzi opened her mouth to break her hesitation, so they have put you on the opposite side from the beginning. Perhaps even before this recognition banquet, when they knew you existed, the hostility had already started. They were wary of you. I will compete for the old man's favor and the Zhang family's property. Su Ling'an shook his head quickly, I don't want any property. Zhang Lingzi shook her head in amusement, silly girl, why not? You should have felt that the old man feels guilty for you. He is even a little cautious towards you. Now he is only thinking about making up for you. Whatever he gives you, you can accept it with peace of mind. If you don't, he will feel that you don't really acknowledge him as an elder. If she doesn't want what she offers, then she still had to fight to get a big gift in her previous life. Yes, really. Anan, sometimes people can't be so sensible. Grandma may have taught you in the past that you should be aggrieved once in a while, take a step back and the world is brighter, as long as you are smooth. But I think that living in this world still needs to be more carefree. Because to some people, your retreat is to allow them to push their limits. If I didn't just beat Zhang Lingzhou in front of everyone today, wouldn't his parents dare to say anything? Now that you have the confidence, stop aggrieving yourself and just think about taking care of everyone, okay? I'm going to reply to a message, and you think about it carefully after dinner, go back to bed. Su Ling'an watched Zhang Lingzi disappear behind the door. When she regained consciousness, she felt her eyes were a little hot. Lu Zhengzheng came back from ordering supper and was startled when she saw Su Ling'an's red eyes. What's wrong? Did Sister Zixi talk about you? No, Su Ling'an shook his head vigorously, as if to get rid of all the messy worries in his mind. I just figured out some things. Lu Zhengzheng immediately breathed a sigh of relief. That's good. I can't even imagine what it's like for Sister Zixi to train people in private. She still remembers that there was a scene on the set where Emperor Yuan Zhao punished a minister who had committed a crime and refused to admit guilt. The actor who played the minister at that time was only glanced at by Sister Zixi, and he didn't even say the lines. My legs went weak and I knelt down. After the scene was over, I had to ask the assistant to help me stand up. Asterisk. In the bedroom, Zhang Lingzi read the message sent by Shen Yunqing and replied, I just had a conversation with Anan and now I have returned to the hotel. Shen Yunqing was sitting cross-legged in front of a short table. When he saw his phone light up, he immediately made a pause gesture to Wu Ju, who was communicating via video, and picked up his phone to type. What do you think of the other Zhang family members? Not so. Seeing these 3 words, Shen Yunqing suddenly understood. So I didn't mention anything related to the Zhang family again, I will go to the crew to shoot the final scene tomorrow. Zhang Lingzi couldn't help but be stunned when she saw the message. She hasn't had time to read tomorrow's announcement. Is Prime Minister Shen's role about to be completed? Her thoughts were suddenly interrupted when she heard Lu Zhengzheng calling her out for a late-night snack. Then let's talk tomorrow when we meet. Well, you go to bed early. The same as you. Coming out of the bedroom, Zhang Lingzi glanced at the supper that had been placed on the table. Lu Zhengzheng and Su Ling'an were sitting at the table, waiting for her to come out to eat together. She sat down and took the chopsticks from Su Ling'an. Zhengzheng, please show me tomorrow's announcement. Lu Zhengzheng walked to the entrance and took out the notice from her bag. While handing it over, she said, "By the way, Sister Zixi, I haven't told you yet. Prime Minister Shen's scene will be completed tomorrow." "I already know." Zhang Lingzi looked at the dense notices on the paper form and saw the word finalization printed after the three words Prime Minister Shen, and whispered to herself, how come it was completed so quickly? Lu Zhengzheng and Su Ling'an heard this and couldn't help but look at each other. "Don't you know how smooth you are when you play opposite Mr. Shen?" Lu Zhengzheng was following from the beginning to the end and felt that she had the most say. She reminded in a low voice, "Sister Zixi, if I remember correctly, your scene with Mr. Shen has not failed once since the beginning to now. Even sometimes the two of them could improvise on the spot, and Director Wei never called for stop." Zhang Lingzi. It seems that this is indeed the case. After all, for the other actors in the crew, they are only acting what is in the script. But for her and Shen Yunqing, it was a real past that had been engraved in their bones unconsciously. How can you not be familiar with it and not be fluent? Also, Director Wei sent a reminder to the work group today. "I wonder if you, Sister Zixi, have seen it," Lu Zhengzheng said while opening the crew work group on her mobile phone. "This is from the Imperial City Film and Television City. All the scenes will be filmed in a few days, and our crew will be filming the scenes outside the Great Wall." Zhang Lingzi took the mobile phone handed over by Lu Zhengzheng. "Is Liangchu on the next stop?" I checked the information specifically. It's half grassland and half desert, and the birthplace of the Li River. The autumn scenery is vast and spectacular. It's my first time to go there. However, the food and accommodation conditions there seem to be similar. It's not too good, the sun is quite strong, I need to stock up on some sunscreen and some appetizers in the next 2 days." Zhang Lingzi glanced at her. "Do you think this is a trip?" "Haha," Lu Zhengzheng laughed dryly. By the way. Su Ling'an was a little disappointed. "Then I probably won't be able to go. It is very possible that when my sister went to Liangchuan with the crew, it happened to be the time when she went to the university to report." Lu Zhengzheng patted her shoulder comfortingly. "I can send you the beautiful scenery of Liangchuan and the beautiful photos of Sister Zixi every day." Su Ling'an. I didn't feel comforted. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 374. Eat and drink enough before going to sleep, having a dreamless night. When I met Shen Yunqing early the next morning, he saw that he had already put on makeup. He is dressed in white and looks like jade. Although it is the final scene, what will be filmed this time is the first meeting between Emperor Yuan Zhao and Prime Minister Shen. At that time, the Emperor Yuan Zhao was not the powerful Emperor Yuan Zhao who had already ascended the throne, but the crown princess who had just returned from the battlefield victorious and full of determination. One is not a prime minister who is over the country, but a white body of the white body who has chosen from the family to change the name of the family. Zhang Lingzi didn't use any protection and jumped off the horse of the actor who had been with her for almost 3 months. After landing firmly, she leaned over to pick up a painting that was almost trampled by the horse's hoofs. Just as I picked up one corner of the drawing paper, the opposite corner of the drawing was pinched by the other hand. Zhang Lingzi raised her eyes and met a pair of cold eyes with a hint of surprise. She smiled and said, "Is this your painting?" Shen Yunqing couldn't help but feel dazed for a moment. The high-spirited girl, her hair is a little messy, her body is covered with wind and frost, and she has a serious look that cannot be concealed. There is still a bit of evil in her eyes when she looks over, but she can scare away the children passing by with just one glance. At this moment, the movement of leaning over to pick up the painting was gentle and careful. Just like a tiger sniffing a rose. The ultimate contrast, just one glance and you will never forget it. Fortunately, he still remembered that this was filming. After a moment of trance, he quickly came to his senses and said, "Yes. You can ask for your own things in the future." The words "get it" flooded between my lips and teeth after seeing the content of the painting. Zhang Lingzi lowered her eyes and looked at her in the painting. It was a triumphant day. She returned to the capital in armor, and the red tassel on the long wooden barn in her hand was as bright as blood. The surprise at that moment was really not staged. After all, this painting looks like it was painted not long ago, otherwise the colors would never be so bright. There are also these brush strokes that are so familiar that they cannot be more familiar. So was this painted yesterday, or was it just painted early this morning? Wei Xiao looked at the picture transmitted to the monitor. When the camera focused on the painting in the hands of the two of them, he was stunned for a moment, and then took a breath. In fact, he originally planned to search for a similar prop painting on the internet for the prop painting to be used in this scene, and then let the crew who knew Photoshop do a little drawing and then print it out. As a result, Shen Yunqing told him that he was ready. He didn't think much about it. The actor was so self-conscious and it saved him trouble, so why not do it? But he originally thought that the painting this man prepared would be similar to what he originally planned to prepare. Who would have thought that it was really a picture of an armored triumph painted with a practical brush? The picture quality under the lens was absolutely high definition, and he was sure that he saw it correctly. This is a meticulous ink painting drawn with a brush. Although he does not have the life to see the painting from 1,000 years ago, when he sees this painting now, he has only one thought: the painting at that time should be such. Seeing that the camera was about to move away, Wei Xiao quickly stopped him. Wait a minute, the camera will stay on the painting for 2 seconds. Personally speaking, he hasn't appreciated it enough. He doesn't plan to cut it out in the later stage. If this painting was peas, it would just be passed by. But now that it is a real painting, it is natural to show it off in front of the audience's eyes. Okay, stuck. The camera moved away, and Shen Yunqing's hand loosened the corner of the drawing paper. Zhang Lingzi's eyebrows moved slightly when she saw this. She glanced at the person in front of her, and put away the painting without leaving a trace. The two walked side by side towards Wei Xiao, who had already stood up and was waving to them. Where was that painting just now? It was through a lens just now, even if it was a high-definition lens, but it couldn't be seen more clearly under my nose. Wei Xiao looked straight at Shen Yunqing, and rubbed his hands to show that his hands were clean, and waited to receive the painting. Zhang Lingzi pursed her lips when she saw his eager waiting look, and had no choice but to take out the rolled-up painting again. Wei Xiao watched helplessly as the painting was handed to him by the other hand. He looked back and forth between the two people's faces several times, but in the end he couldn't hold back and said nothing. He stretched out his hand and silently took the painting. He thought for a moment and then looked at the current owner of the painting. Do you mind if I take a few photos and use them as promotional materials? Zhang Lingzi: okay. She has already appeared in the scenes in the play anyway, so it doesn't matter if we take a few more photos. After receiving permission, Wei Xiao immediately cleared out the small table at hand, spread the scroll flat, pressed down the four corners, and took several pictures with his mobile phone. When that wasn't enough, he asked someone to send in a special camera to take more pictures. Shoot. Zhang Lingzi waited patiently at first, but seeing that he was taking endless shots, she couldn't help but remind her, Director Wei, is it almost done? Ahem. Wei Xiao put down the camera and raised his head to meet Zhang Lingzi's eyes. After all, he still didn't say the words or else leave this painting on the set. The person in this painting is wearing armor, even covering most of his face. But he has also been watching Zhang Lingzi's filming for 3 months, and he can accurately identify Zhang Lingzi in this painting just by looking at the part of his face that is not covered. This is already a portrait of a real person, and I am really embarrassed to ask for it now. Zhang Lingzi ignored the reluctance in Wei Xiao's eyes and neatly put the painting away. Just then, a staff member came over with a large bouquet of flowers and said, Director, the flowers you ordered have arrived. Wei Xiao turned around and looked over. At first glance, he didn't see the head of his staff, which was completely covered by a bouquet of oversized pink roses. Wait a minute, didn't I order blue and white? What's going on with this large area of pink and tender color? Ah, the staff member paused as he handed the flowers, and the face that poked out from behind the bouquet was confused. Are they blue and white? But the clerk who delivered the flowers said they would be delivered to our crew. Is that okay? Did the clerk make a mistake? Wei Xiao was speechless for a moment. He ordered these flowers for Shen Yunqing in advance. The cast and crew were finalized. No matter who they were all successfully completed under his high-pressure rule. I would always order a bouquet of flowers and send them to express my blessings. This has continued. Been used to it for several years. But this was the first time such a mistake had been made. How could he order a bouquet of pink roses for Shen Yunqing? Mr. Shen, look at this. Shen Yunqing's eyes fell on the large bouquet of pink roses, and he did not ignore the smiling face beside him. It doesn't matter, if you can make this person smile, this pink rose is not unacceptable. Is it for me? Wei Xiao nodded bravely, took the bouquet from the staff, and looked at Zhang Lingzi again. Forget it, you two are both starring, Zioxi, please help me deliver it. He is a grown man and it always feels weird to give pink roses to another man. Fortunately, there is someone who can do it for me. Zhang Lingzi, who was still suppressing a smile. She looked at the pink rose that was handed to her eyes without being rejected, and was speechless for a moment, but still reached out to take it. Then he turned around and handed it to Shen Yunqing generously, thinking of the tradition of the crew, happy completion. Shen Yunqing was about to reach out to pick it up, when he noticed with sharp eyes a small card stuck in the corner of the bouquet, and subconsciously reached out to take it out. Wei Xiao exclaimed, "Why is there a card here? I didn't ask anyone to write the card for me. Could it be that it was sent by mistake?" Shen Yunqing had already scanned the content on the card when he said this. After putting it back, he looked at Zhang Lingzi who was holding the flowers with a half smile. It's really possible. Wei Xiao couldn't wait and took the card over again. Miss Zhang, after reading the top 3 words, he glanced up, lowered his voice and continued to read the words behind. I was rude last night, a bouquet of pink angels, please forgive me. I hope your filming goes well and you are in a good mood every day. I don't know if it was just such a coincidence, but as soon as Wei Xiao finished speaking, another staff member came running over. Director Wei, the final bouquet you ordered for Prime Minister Shen has been delivered. The 3 of them all turned to look at the elegant and clean blue and white bouquet, just like the impression Shen Yunqing left on the crew. Looking at the large bunch of pink tender leaves in her arms, Zhang Lingzi said. This time it was her fault that she couldn't laugh. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 375. The 3 people standing in a triangle were silent for almost 3 seconds while looking at the 2 large bouquets of flowers in front of them. Wei Xiao broke the silence with a dry laugh, put the small card in his hand back into the large bouquet of pink roses, and then placed it again. The blue and white bouquet he ordered was delivered to Shen Yunqing. Prime Minister Shen, happy finishing. Shen Yunqing smiled, took the bouquet, nodded and said thank you, Director. Wei Xiao. If you don't want to laugh, then let's stop laughing. Well, what about that? I have booked a private room at Jinchin's house in the film and television city today, and there will be a closing banquet for you in the evening at that time. Several of the main creators of our crew will go over and have a meal together to celebrate. After all, the whole crew has not finished filming yet, so there is no need to make a big fuss. The private room has been reserved, and Shen Yunqing did not express his feelings and nodded in agreement. Then I will be disrespectful. Ahem, what's that? I don't have anything else to do. You two go and have a rest. The atmosphere was still a bit weird. Wei Xiao wanted to say that he had prepared a bottle of champagne to celebrate the finalization, but when it came to his mouth he swallowed it again and waved his hands away. The weirdness of this atmosphere was a bit too much for an old man like him. Zhang Lingzi originally wanted to throw away the handful of pink angels in her arms, but she looked around and couldn't find a trash can, so she could only take a deep breath and continue holding it. After walking out for a certain distance, "This flower! This flower!" Two voices sounded almost at the same time. Shen Yunqing paused, habitually waiting for the other party to speak first. "This flower is... Wow, Sister Zixi, dreamy pink angel. There must be hundreds of flowers in this bunch. When did my uncle become so generous?" Wei Minmin suddenly sprang out from behind the two of them, and inadvertently appeared again. Zhang Lingzi was interrupted, but she quickly reacted from the astonishment in her eyes. "No, Mr. Shen finished filming today, not you. This flower shouldn't be a gift from the director, could it be a fan? This must be a rich fan. Hey, I've never received such a big bunch." Zhang Lingzi looked at her helplessly. Could this girl stop adding fuel to the fire? She casually took out two flowers and said, "These are for you, good boy, and you can play with them while you're at it." Don't add fuel to her troubles anymore. Wei Minmin subconsciously took the flowers and then turned her eyes from the large bouquet of dreamy pink angels to the expressions of the two people in front of her. Afterwards, she realized that she might not have come at the right time. "Haha, what, I'll go first, it's time to leave, see you later, Sister Zixi." After saying that, he turned around and ran away. However, Wei Minmin's exclamation still caused many people around to turn their heads and look this way curiously. Zhang Lingzi rarely felt a little tired. "Forget it, let's talk about it." Back to the lounge. When they arrived at the lounge, they saw Lu Zhengzheng and Su Ling'an were there. Before they could say anything, Zhang Lingzi handed over the flowers and said, "Zhengzheng went to help me deal with it?" Ah, Lu Zhengzheng, who just wanted to praise the beautiful flowers, was stunned and asked subconsciously, "How to deal with it? Then I'll teach you." No, 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 no need. Intuiting that Sister Zixi's anger was a bit dangerous at the moment, Lu Zhengzheng hurriedly stepped forward and quickly held the bouquet in her arms. "I can handle it. I guarantee that it will be handled cleanly without leaving any traces." Zhang Lingzi. Those who don't know better think you are going to destroy the body and eliminate all traces. She waved her hands tiredly. "Go quickly. From now on, she will not be able to look directly at this kind of powder for a long time." Su Ling'an also stood up silently and caught up with Lu Zhengzheng. "I'll go help." The two of them quickly slipped out of the lounge hand in hand. After coming out, Lu Zhengzheng patted her chest and breathed a sigh of relief, and looked at the flowers in her arms in confusion. "Who gave these flowers? It shouldn't be Mr. Shen, otherwise Sister Zixi wouldn't have let me handle it, so why not? Who could it be?" "There is a card," Su Ling'an said with sharp eyes and reached out to pull out the card stuffed in the bouquet. The two of them met and finished reading. Lu Zhengzheng, "Fans, fans," he frowned and shook his head. "No, what about that disrespectful sentence before?" Su Ling'an turned to the back of the card again. He didn't see the signature, but just by looking at the words on the card, he could almost guess who sent the flowers. If it was that person and the pink roses he gave were easy to misunderstand, no wonder my sister would be so disgusted that she would just let them get rid of them. If my sister asks me to do it, then do it. Looking at such a bouquet of flowers now, she felt a little uncomfortable. Well, it's just a pity. Finally, Lu Zhengzheng still decisively destroyed the flowers. While feeling distressed, he plucked out all the flowers. After finishing the process, he even took a photo. Be sure to let Sister Zixi know how diligently she handles the matter. The card was also torn into small pieces no bigger than a fingernail by Su Ling'an, making it impossible to put it together. In the lounge, Zhang Lingzi pointed to the chair she usually used to rest. "Sit." As soon as she finished speaking, Shen Yunqing walked over and sat down obediently, holding the flowers, as if he was obedient. However, after sitting down, he just lowered his eyes and looked at the bouquet in his hand, reached out and gently touched one of the white flowers without saying a word. Zhang Lingzi looked over when she saw this. Just when she was about to speak, her eyes couldn't help but fall on the hand that was quietly caressing the petals. Looking closely, the petals are not completely white, with a faint pink on the edges. When the hand came closer, the two almost merged into one, and for a while it was hard to tell which one was fairer. As she looked at it, she suddenly felt that her throat was a little dry. He cleared his throat before speaking. That flower should have been sent by Zhang Lingzhou, Mr. Zhang's grandson. We only met at the Anan marriage banquet last night. Shen Yunking's eyelashes trembled slightly, the words on the card. That kid was dishonest and I beat him up before he left. Now that he's done this, he should just be here to apologize. Maybe there are other purposes, but now, her intuition tells her that biting the other person to death is just an apology. Shen Yunqing finally raised his eyes. Did he touch you somewhere? Zhang Lingzi then met the eyes he was looking at. They were deep and edgeless, and upon closer inspection there was a surge of darkness. She couldn't help but be startled. My hand, I only touched it when I was beating someone. The dark color under the eyes slowly faded. Your Majesty. The sigh behind him was almost inaudible. Shen Yunqing knew that his temper was unreasonable. With His Majesty's pride, how could he allow others to touch him even if he was not someone he approved of? But there is no reason to speak of love. Not only was he angry with Zhang Lingzhou, who had almost offended His Majesty, he was also angry with himself. A person whom I have known for less than a day dares to send flowers and cards to His Majesty. He clearly has delusional thoughts, but he has always only dared to approach him cautiously to test him. While he worships the person as a god, he also wants to gently hold the person in the palm of his hand for no reason. Be quiet and restrained, not daring to be abrupt. But at this moment, he no longer wanted to be patient. When the finger that originally rested on the white petals suddenly came up with caution, lightness, and urgency, fearing rejection, Zhang Lingzi's fingertips trembled subconsciously. But soon she felt that the fingers that were holding her tightened again, and the strength was controlled so that she could not break free instantly, and it would not make her feel trapped and uncomfortable. Shen Yunqing looked up at the person standing in front of him. Now there was only a bouquet of flowers between them, so they could be said to be very close. His heartbeat was beating like a drum. He felt both the nervousness of tentatively holding His Majesty's finger just now, and the joy and excitement of realizing that he had not been freed. I don't know when the restraint that had long been ingrained in his body became tainted with stubbornness. At this moment, he was encouraged to muster the courage to speak. Your Majesty, can you no longer just treat me as a minister? Because I have long been unwilling to give in. The next words were swallowed between the lips and teeth of Zhang Lingzi, who suddenly leaned over. At that time, she was wearing battle armor and returning victorious. It is the time when the spirit is high and the clouds are full of pride, the horse is riding the reins, and the whole body is full of frivolity. I met a young man dressed in white, as bright as a jade tree, with a unique look. When they looked at each other in shock, not only one person was shocked. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 376. Lu Zhengzheng stood at the door of the lounge, her face flushed. Turning her head to look at Su Ling'an, who had the same expression as hers, her tone was full of luck. Fortunately, you just reminded me. Otherwise her hand would have been knocking on the door by now. Su Ling'an carefully and cautiously stretched out his hand to close the door that had been blown open a crack by the wind, and turned around. The surprise and shyness of seeing the indoor scene inadvertently still remained in his eyes. No, it's okay. Lu Zhengzhen knelt down next to her and guarded the door, patted her still hot face, and suddenly sighed, "You said there is no kissing scene between Sister Zixi and Mr. Shen in the play, so we only can take a peek. Such a beautiful scene, I dare not look at it openly." Su Ling'an couldn't help but nod in agreement in his heart, but he still looked serious. After all, the relationship between Emperor Yuan Zhao and Prime Minister Shen was just a simple monarch-minister relationship in history. "That's true," Lu Zhengzhen nodded and accepted the reality, "but I see that there are a lot of fan stories about Emperor Yuan Zhao and Prime Minister Shen on major websites. I have a hunch that when Sister Zixi's drama is broadcast, by then, there will probably be more people taking advantage of these two CPS. They have no way of knowing what Emperor Yuan Zhao and Prime Minister Shen looked like in history, but they can make some inferences from the few words left in the history books. They are both dragons and phoenixes among men, and their appearance is also excellent. But the words on paper cannot be completely embodied. People can only rely on their imagination to describe what the two people will look like in their minds." Until she saw Emperor Yuan Zhao played by Sister Zixi and Prime Minister Shen played by Mr. Shen. She couldn't think of anyone in the world who could be more suitable for these two roles than them. As he was thinking about it, he was brought back to his senses by the phone that vibrated several times in his hand. Lu Zhengzhen looked down at the screen of the phone, and her face suddenly changed. "No, the Director of Health is urging Sister Zixi to go back to the set to film. What should we do? Go and knock on the door?" "I cannot. To be honest, I don't dare either. There is a saying that if you disturb someone's relationship, it will cause thunder and lightning, and you will never find a partner in your life." Asterisk. In the restroom. The originally elegant and clean blue-white bouquet has been accidentally crushed off many petals, and the crushed flower juice reveals a fragrant and sweet taste, with a slight green astringency when you smell it carefully. The originally well-organized arrangement between the flowers is now a bit messy, and even fine petals fall to the clothes and feet of the two people who have been intertwined. When the clothes were separated, the bouquet was messy, and the man who was already half leaning on the recliner looked drunk and was in a trance. Zhang Lingzi couldn't help but take a deep breath, and couldn't help but stretched out her hand to touch the red mark on Shen Yunqing's chin that she had inadvertently pinched with force. She licked her already wet lips and chuckled, "This is the future, where are the monarchs and ministers? This way, she won't have any scruples anymore." These words can be regarded as an answer to what Shen Yunqing did not have time to finish the question just now. Director Wei must be waiting impatiently. Zhang Lingzi let go of her hand and looked down at the bouquet of flowers that she had torn a little miserably. She stretched out her hand and stroked it. "If you don't go out, the two little girls outside the door will also be impatient," cried. Shen Yunqing finally recovered from his trance and was about to get up when he heard the sound. Zhang Lingzi glanced at him and pushed him back. "You'd better stay in the lounge and have a good rest." She was okay. Today's makeup and costumes were based on an uninhibited style. Even if her hair was a little messy, it wouldn't matter. In addition, the fabric of her clothes was relatively stiff, so she couldn't tell anything strange when she went out like this. But the relatively thin white robes Shen Yunqing was wearing looked a bit miserable at the moment. In addition, the makeup on her face was so thin, the emotion that had not faded away was clearly visible. Going out like this is like telling others clearly what they just did in the lounge. Shen Yunqing. I understood the subtext, but my face got even hotter. In the end, he could only adjust his messy collar a little and managed to regain some dignity, frowning and letting out a light hum. Zhang Lingzi opened the door to the lounge. The two people who were anxiously walking around at the door suddenly stopped and looked up. He tried his best not to look into the lounge. "Sister Zixi, the director just now." Before Zhang Lingzi could finish speaking, she closed the door of the lounge again with her backhand and said directly, "Let's go." Lu Zhengzhen quickly raised her heels. Su Ling'an looked back and saw that no one came out of the lounge. After hesitating for a second, he said, "Chased him." She had no part to play this morning and could have rested in the lounge. But now her brother-in-law is still inside, and she doesn't know why he didn't come out with him, so she should go to the studio to watch Sister Zixi filming. "Why are you coming so slowly?" Wei Xiao saw Zhang Lingzi frowning and being dissatisfied when he came back in a hurry. He waited for someone to get closer and then looked over, and then he noticed something strange. "Where's the makeup artist? Come over and give girl one a touch-up. He is just a single old man, how can he be fed dog food during his breaks?" As for the fact that the male and female protagonists fall in love during filming, he has long been used to it. Not to mention that Shen Yunqing was originally introduced by Zhang Lingzi, so the two of them may have already had a clue. Fortunately, the role of Prime Minister Shen has now been completed, and it is a bit gratifying to be able to bear it for so long before being exposed in front of him without affecting the previous filming. Your state must not affect the next few scenes, or else you won't have a share in the closing banquet tonight. Zhang Lingzi. What a powerful threat. It was naturally impossible for her to miss out on the rest of the shooting. Even the co-star Wei Minmin couldn't help but step forward and asked in a low voice after the director called out, "Sister 11, did you secretly inject chicken blood just after you got back?" Otherwise, she was almost unable to withstand the drama just now. Performing one scene is more tiring than playing against other people for 10. Zhang Lingzi, yeah, I beat him. Wei Minmin didn't expect this man to actually nod, and couldn't help but wonder, how did you hit him? Not suitable for children. Wei Minmin. Why is she talking so much? In order to save time for the closing banquet in the evening, the crew simply did not take a break as usual after lunch. Put down your chopsticks and wipe your mouth before continuing to shoot. Zhang Lingzi had no choice but to ask Lu Zhengzheng for her mobile phone and send a message to Shen Yunqing, so that he would not be too obedient and stay in the lounge until the evening. Then I'll go back and do some work first. Well, go ahead and see you tonight. Handing the phone to Lu Zhengzheng, Zhang Lingzi glanced in the direction of the lounge, turned around and continued to work on the chicken blood injection. He followed his boss's instructions and found the lounge with a thin windbreaker. When he knocked on the door and entered, his eyes couldn't help but fall on Shen Yunqing's chin. The red mark that has not faded is still very conspicuous on the jade-white skin. I couldn't help but exclaimed, "Boss, are you injured?" Shen Yunqing took the windbreaker he handed and put it on directly. She noticed his gaze and said, "I touched it by accident." Does he look stupid? If you take a closer look, you can tell it is. Okay, he shouldn't have asked just now. Have the transfer procedures for the RV been completed? When it comes to work, Hizu immediately transformed into a workplace elite mode. Don't worry, boss, all the procedures have been completed. The modification of the living facilities in the RV has been completed, and the safety performance modification is expected to be completed within 5 days, ensuring that there will be no delays. Ginger, no, Madam Use. Let's go, take me to see it. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 377. Chapter 377. Mr. and Ms. She brought their siblings to visit the class. It turns out that this is the place where TV dramas are filmed. I didn't expect it to be so big and spectacular. Suyi looked at Sicheng, who was still leaning forward and looking around in the sightseeing bus, and couldn't help but raise his hand and touch the back of his head. Can you be more honest with me? Sicheng suddenly screamed exaggeratedly, "Oh, sister, your attacks are getting more and more cruel." Suyi sneered, "If you're not ruthless, can you have a long memory?" Shi Lao and Li Wangxuan were sitting in the front row, listening to the fight between the two siblings behind them, but they laughed without saying a word and had no intention of stopping it. The only son is not at home all year round. In the past 2 days, the two siblings have stayed at the house, and it has been much more lively than usual. As people get older, they like this kind of lively life. I think at the beginning, I just saw the video that Xiao Ei sent me of Zhang Xiao and Mr. Shen playing chess on the set, and then I decided to invite people to the show. I didn't expect that this fate would be forged. Li Wangsuan couldn't help but rolled her eyes at him. I've heard you show off several times, but you haven't shown off enough yet. I don't want you to praise me for my sharp eyesight. Yes, yes, you are very discerning. Let me ask you, did Xiao Wei reply to the message? Not yet. Zhang Xiao hasn't replied yet. He's probably busy. Let's go over there and see if we can go in directly. I just said that I should have informed you earlier that you had to take a tour first. Are you blind now? The management of the crew must be very strict. How could they rashly let people in to visit the crew? I dare say that you will be able to do it by then. Your old face is useless. Lao Shi smiled. Hasn't he forgotten it for a moment and is now trying his best to remedy it? The child is still behind, so save some face for your wife. Li Wangsuan crossed her hands on her chest and glanced over with a noble and cold look. Humph. Asterisk. Director, someone is here to visit us. Wei Xiao swallowed the refreshing herbal tea in his mouth and turned to look at the staff member who was waiting for his instructions in Chi Chi Ai. Whose class are you visiting? The old gentleman said, just look at the messages on your mobile phone and you will know. Wei Xiao. During filming, in order to prevent being disturbed, he always muted his cell phone and stuffed it into a drawer. Today was particularly busy. From the time he started shooting after lunch until now, he hasn't even taken out his phone. Thinking again of the old gentleman I just heard, the old gentleman who was still leisurely enough to come to visit him at this time, and who also had his personal contact information. It seems that there is only one person who can meet these two conditions at the same time. As he opened the drawer to get his mobile phone, he asked, does the person who came have two black and white chess pieces in his hand? How do you know, satellite director? Wei Xiao didn't look at the staff member's eyes that suddenly widened. He looked at the 3 missed calls and 4 unread messages displayed on his mobile phone, and his hands shook. Why did this old man come over suddenly? Wait a minute, when he was chatting with this person on his mobile phone 2 days ago, the other person seemed to have said casually that he would bring 2 juniors over here to visit and take a look at the crew. However, he was so busy that he forgot about it. I didn't expect people to come so directly. Click to open the message. Xiao Ei, I'm here to visit you. And my wife and 2 little guys. Have you seen the news? Can you just wait until we arrive and go in directly? Someone is guarding this entrance, preventing you from entering. Where are you busy? Go tell the guys to rest for 10 minutes and then resume filming in 10 minutes, Wei Xiao said, already standing up and walking quickly towards the fenced entrance and exit of the studio. The staff member who was left behind saw his nervous look and quickly recalled his attitude towards the 2 elderly people. After silently breathing a sigh of relief, he went to inform everyone on the set. Zhang Lingzi took the cup handed over by Lu Zhengzheng and drank some water. She wiped the sweat on her face with a tissue and looked at Wei Xiao's back not far away. I heard many people talking around while replenishing water. The director said there would be no rest this afternoon, so why did he suddenly allow another 10 minutes of rest? Looking at the director's back, he is in such a hurry. Could it be that some big shot is coming to visit? Is it the management? The director seems to have been notified at short notice. Could it be a surprise attack? Look at the mess on my head. Zhang Lingzi raised her eyebrows and was about to sit down when her cell phone was handed over to her by Lu Zhengzheng again. Sister Zixi, there seems to be a message on your phone. Clicking to read the message just sent a few minutes ago, Zhang Lingzi, the case has been solved. Walk. Ah, where are you going? Zhang Lingzi waved to Su Ling'an, who was still taking a sip of water. Pick someone up. As soon as Shiman sat down, the assistant handed her the water. He glanced at the direction Zhang Lingzi left, hesitated for a moment and reminded, "Sister Man, everyone is guessing that the person who asked the director of health to pick it up in person was probably the employer. Zhang Lingzi, just it's over, should we go and greet him too?" Shimin took a sip of water and her eyelids moved when she heard this. After hesitating for 2 seconds, she stood up and said, "Let's go, it's not rude." So everyone on the set stared at the director first, then the heroine and the fourth heroine. Now the third daughter also moved. The male lead has finished filming and is no longer on the set, leaving only the second female lead, Min Min, still in place. Wei Min Min suddenly received a lot of looks. She didn't believe that the employer, who everyone was guessing, was coming. With the temperament of her eldest cousin, even if he was coming, he would tell her in advance. "I don't even have the face to ask my uncle to pick him up in person. The only people who can ask my uncle to pick him up in person are seniors with higher seniority. I don't know why Sister 11 went, but since my uncle didn't call her when he left, it has nothing to do with her. As for Shimin, why did she go out? Then she didn't even know what was going on. Anyway, she just needs to stay where she is and rest." When Zhang Lingzi and Su Linggan walked to the entrance of the studio, they saw that Wei Xiao had already brought them in. Shi Lao, Mr. Li, Su Yi, Su Cheng. The four of them looked at Zhang Lingzi and Su Linggan, who were dressed in costumes from ancient times. The eyes are full of surprise. Su Yi's eyes were even more astonishingly bright. Sister Jiang's outfit really looks like a decisive female general. Li Wangxuan looked at her with a smile and said, "Are you inspired again?" Su Yi nodded sheepishly. Looking at Su Linggan, who was standing next to Zhang Lingzi, he couldn't help but rub his fingers that suddenly wanted to pick up the pen. She already has a picture in her mind. "Let's go in first, maybe it will inspire more inspiration." Shi Lao just told Wei Xiao, how could he forget what he mentioned before? He was complained a lot by his wife. He will snort softly, "You're not leading the way yet." Wei Xiao touched his nose and changed from his usual way of telling everyone on the set, "Old Shi, Mr. Li, and these two kids, please come in." Turning a corner, she almost bumped into Shimin and her assistant who were walking towards her. She couldn't help but frown. "Why are you here? Didn't I say that you can't leave the set wearing the costumes of the crew? And you will only have a 10-minute break this time. Where are you going?" By this time, Shimin had seen several unfamiliar faces following behind. Two gray-haired old men, and two girls and teenagers with eyes full of curiosity. None of them looked like the boss she had guessed. It was said that they were the elders and juniors of the director's family. Suddenly I realized that I had accidentally made a mistake. Okay, I don't care what your reasons are, you have to abide by my rules on my set. Go back." Wei Xiao was too lazy to listen to her explanation and waved his hand directly. Shimin turned around with a blush on her face. Especially when she noticed Zhang Lingzi looking towards her, she felt even more embarrassed and angry. Clenched her teeth and glared at the assistant who encouraged her to come over. The assistant was so stared at that his neck shrank. Pills. She was not doing this for the sake of her own artists. If she had known better, she would not have said that. End of this chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 378. Chapter 378. Su Yi presented Rainy Night and participated in the leading actor's final banquet. Wei Min Min, who was still sitting on a chair to rest, caught a glimpse of two faces that were not familiar but certainly unfamiliar, and immediately stood up. The movement was so fast that the assistant sitting next to her was startled. "Sister Min Min. My uncle really welcomes two ancestors." After murmuring, she quickly raised her feet to greet them. "Grandpa Shi, Grandma Li." Shi Lao and Li Wangxuan thought the person walking towards them in guard uniform was a boy, but when they heard the voice, Li Wangxuan looked over again. "Min girl." It's me. Wei Min touched her dark-colored face in embarrassment. My character is currently pretending to be a man. No wonder, I almost didn't dare to recognize her just now. The sensitive girl is quite heroic when she dresses up in men's clothing. Thank you, Grandma Li, for the compliment. Assistant Wei Min followed. This is the first time she has seen Sister Min act so girlish, and she has gained a lot of experience. Why did Mr. Shi and Grandma Li come to my uncle's set? Wei Min really didn't expect that her uncle would go to meet these two people. Li Wangsuan waved to Su Yi and Sicheng. I just finished my work, so I have nothing to do. They are my juniors, my sister Su Yi and my brother Sicheng. This is their first time in the imperial capital. Grandpa Shi and I are thinking of taking them out for a walk. As for why I came here, there are naturally other reasons. But there is no need to say this. Wei Min immediately waved to the siblings. Hello. Su Yi quickly nodded and said hello. Sicheng's eyes were so bright at this moment. You, have you ever filmed a costume drama and played the role of the little witch? I've seen the TV series you acted in. Su Yi saw his stupid look and almost couldn't help but slap him again. Wei Min was stunned at first, and it took her 2 seconds to realize which drama he was talking about. She nodded funnily. I did play the role of a little witch. You are talking about The Legend of the Moon. It's better it was performed years ago, but I didn't expect people would still watch it. Yes, Such Hung Chicken nodded. The TV signal in our town is sometimes good and bad. I watched it on a CD several times. Wei Min raised her eyebrows. Although the TV signal was not stable in some strange and remote places, she didn't ask much. Then, do you want an autograph? Ah, can you? Okay, I didn't bring a notebook. Sister, I remember you brought it, please lend it to me. Now he will have something to show off to his friends when he goes back. Su Yi could tell what he was thinking at a glance. It is true that children who make sticks are much happier. Resigned to his fate, he took out the notebook and handed it over. Zhang Lingzi was standing next to her. When she glanced over casually, she saw a small scroll in her open bag. You're taking a painting with you when you go out, just in time. Sister Zhang, this is what I plan to give to you, Su Yi said, taking out the scroll and handing it to Zhang Lingzi with both hands. I've been learning how to mount it from my uncle for the past 2 days. I mounted it myself, and it's not very good. I hope you don't mind it. Zhang Lingzi looked at the scroll in front of her, which was indeed a little rough but also very carefully framed, and she already had a guess in her heart. She shook her head and took it, untied the black ribbon tied to the scroll, and slowly opened it. It is indeed the painting Rainy Night. She originally wanted to keep it in her hands, but before she could, she asked Su Yi if he was willing to take action. Thank you, I like this painting very much. As long as Sister Zhang likes it. Wait a minute. Wei Min was still holding the signature pen in her hand, and had just finished signing the signature in the book. At this moment, she looked at Su Yi with wide eyes. What did you call Grandma Li just now? I might be a little bit, I just couldn't hear it clearly. Master, Su Yi explained in a good temper, Mr. Li is my master's senior sister. According to seniority, I should be called master. Wei Min looked down at the book with a stiff face. She had just written to brother Sicheng on it. Now she is told that the brother she thought was actually a generation older than her. Su Yi also calls Sister 11 Sister Zhang. It's chaos, it's all chaos. The world where she was the only injured person was achieved. So, can this signature continue to be written? At the critical moment, Sicheng rarely understood the collapse in Wei Min's expression. It's okay, just write about younger brother. I'm not my sister's master's disciple, so I don't have to follow my sister's seniority. Wei Min took a deep breath. Good brother. She was finally greatly comforted. By the time she finished signing, a staff member came over to remind her that the break time had been used up. Before Wei Xiao could speak, Mr. Shi waved his hand towards him. We are just here to have a look and see how the TV is filmed. You are busy with your business, don't worry about us. Wei Xiao naturally didn't dare to ignore it, so he called a familiar assistant to accompany the two elderly people, and then left with Zhang Lingzi and the others. Shimen filmed 2 more scenes, and there was no role for her in the rest of the scene, so she simply went back to the dressing room to remove her makeup. Even though she was misunderstood by Wei Xiao before and was scolded for leaving the set, not many people saw it, but it was seen by the few people who least wanted to be seen. Even though Zhang Lingzi and the others didn't say anything at that time or later, they still had the same attitude towards her as before, and she still felt particularly embarrassed. Seeing that Shimen was about to change into her daily clothes and leave, the assistant encouraged her courage and reminded, "Sister Man, there is a closing party for the leading actor of our crew tonight. Don't you plan to go there? What were you doing in the past?" Shimen rolled her eyes at her. "Going to embarrass yourself." But Director Wei only invited a few of the main creatives from the crew. There weren't many people there if you don't go. This can be seen at a glance. Shimen slapped the table irritably. "Just say I'm not feeling well and go back to the hotel room to rest." "Well, then okay. She can't just drag her life through." Wei Xiao realized that Shimen was missing when he was reminded by the people next to him when he was finishing the work. The other party was the third female. He was about to call and ask where she was when he turned on his phone and saw the message from this person. "I'm not feeling well." I knew it was an excuse at first glance, and the wording was probably sent by the assistant next to Shimen. "I won't go if I don't go." He is still a little eager. He put down his cell phone and looked at the 2 old men walking over. "Old Shi, Mr. Li, tonight is the ending banquet for the male lead of our crew. Are you 2 going to join in the fun with your juniors? This is your crew's final wedding banquet." The couple looked at each other and said with some embarrassment, "Isn't it inappropriate for us to go there? And they are all young people. Where can we sit here? How can you be so relaxed? Let's eat and drink." Zhang Lingzi had just come back from taking off her makeup and changing clothes when she heard Mr. Shi say, "Old Shi, you also know the male protagonist, he is Shen Yunqing. Is he still the leading actor?" Mr. Shi originally thought that Shen Yunqing was just here to make a guest appearance. He was caught off guard when he heard Zhang Lingzi's words, and then he pondered for a moment and nodded. Then if it were him, he would still be able to go to the wedding banquet. Originally, he was just worried that others present would not be able to let him go, but if it was Shen Yunqing's final banquet, he would not have to worry about it. "But what about the others? I've been on the set for almost an afternoon and I haven't seen anyone. If we meet, maybe we can play chess or something." Wei Xiao met Mr. Shi's eyes and looked silently in Zhang Lingzi's direction. It's useless to ask the director about someone's current situation, you have to ask the heroine of their crew. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 379. Chapter 379 Request for a guest role. Zhang Lingzi was just about to say that the person should be here soon. From the corner of his eye, he caught a glimpse of a figure walking this way. He couldn't help but raise the corners of his mouth and raised his hand to indicate, "Here he comes." Everyone immediately turned their heads and looked over. Wei Minmin took a deep breath when she saw the person clearly, and even the corners of Wei Xiao's eyes twitched. Not to mention the appearance in the play, when Wei Xiao was on the set, the colors that Wei Xiao saw Shen Yunqing wearing the most were black and white, and the few other colors were also in deserted tones. In short, if I had to use one word to describe it, it would be plain. But at this moment, he was uncharacteristically wearing a dark cherry red top with auspicious patterns, and with the face that anyone with a discerning eye could see was filled with light joy, it gave him a completely different feeling. Even Zhang Lingzi felt her eyes light up. Xi Lao, Mr. Li, seeing that Xi Lao and Li Wangxuan were also there, Shen Yunqing was surprised for a moment and then said hello as usual, and nodded to Wei Xiao, Director Wei. Wei Xiao raised his hand to cover his mouth and coughed lightly. I just invited Mr. Shi and Mr. Li to attend your final banquet, oh, and their brother and sister. Welcome. After saying that, Shen Yunqing walked to Zhang Lingzi's side and stood still. Wei Xiao. No eyes to see, no eyes to see. It became so blatant so quickly. Li Wangxuan looked at the two people standing side by side, their arms almost touching each other. She raised her eyebrows slightly. She understood something and couldn't help but smile with relief. Now that all the people had arrived, Wei Xiao waved his hand and announced loudly, "Let's go." Considering that Shen Yunqing doesn't have much interaction with the rest of the crew, he always puts on makeup and shoots when he comes, and leaves after filming his part of the scene that he specially focused on. Even now, it is estimated that some people in the crew are still there from the beginning. I have never seen the male protagonist before. So in addition to inviting the main creators of the crew, he also only invited a few teachers responsible for Shen Yunqing's makeup for this final banquet. This will be a full attack, only less than 20 people. After arriving at the reserved private room in the hotel, there was a table for the main creators, and a table for the assistants and several teachers from the behind-the-scenes team. At the creative table, Director Wei Xiao originally took the chair, but now it is naturally given to Xi Lao and Li Wangxuan. He was about to take a seat next to him when he turned around and saw his eldest niece approaching Shen Yunqing. His eyelids jumped and he shouted quickly, "Wei Minmin, sit next to me. You're so ignorant, you actually dare to be a light bulb." "No, uncle, I have something to say to Mr. Shen." "What can you say? It's all nonsense." "Wei Minmin, it's business, okay." She was heartbroken and simply said it directly, "Don't I have a spy drama about the Republic of China to shoot in the future? There is a guest role in it that I haven't been able to find anyone yet. I didn't watch it until just now when I met Mr. Shen. I suddenly felt that he was very suitable for this role, so I wanted to ask him if he would be willing to make a guest appearance." After saying that, she looked hopefully at Shen Yunqing, who had not yet sat down. Shen Yunqing quickly broke her expectations in a calm and gentle tone, "Sorry, I don't have time. Just a cameo if the scene is very small, it only takes 5 days. No, it can be almost completed in 3 days." Shen Yunqing looked at the 3 fingers she extended and said nothing, but anyone could see that his refusal was obvious. "It's really suitable." Wei Minmin put down her hand slumpedly, and when she turned to leave, she caught a glimpse of Zhang Lingzi, who had just entered the box after going to the bathroom. She rolled her eyes and raised her feet to meet him. "Sister 11, please help me." Zhang Lingzi looked at the pitiful look with her hands clasped together and had to stop and asked, "What can I help you with?" "Help me persuade Mr. Shen to come and play a guest role in my next crew, please, please." Hearing this, Zhang Lingzi looked at Shen Yunqing, who was still standing there. Without asking, she knew that this man must have refused. Isn't it the director's job to choose actors? Why did it fall on you? The key is that it is really difficult to find a suitable actor for that role. It can be said that he is the white moonlight of the whole show. In addition, it is also a bestseller. There were actually 2 actors already appointed for the adaptation, but as soon as it was released online, the fans scolded me so much that I didn't dare to act in it. The role didn't have many roles, and it didn't pay much, so the director was worried. Well, the director is my college classmate, and this is her debut film. What book? Wei Minmin suddenly felt that there was an answer. She quickly took out her mobile phone and dug out the e-books and electronic scripts. "Sister 11, can I transfer it to you?" Zhang Lingzi nodded, but she wasn't ready to give Wei Minmin a guarantee just like that. Yunqing is indeed very busy. You have also seen how he is filming in our crew. I will read the novel first, and then I will consider whether to help you. Tell me, whether he agrees or not depends on his own wishes. Wei Minmin nodded quickly, and it took a second to react. Wait a minute, Sister 11, you just called Mr. Shen. Zhang Lingzi smiled at her. Any questions? No, no, absolutely no problem. Wei Minmin shook her head wildly again. Well, I'll go back to my seat first. Going to the empty seat next to her uncle and sitting down, Wei Minmin looked up and saw Mr. Shen pushing a chair for Sister 11. She quickly took a deep breath to calm down her shock. Wei Xiao took the drink order handed over by the waiter. Would you like some more wine? This question made everyone who was already seated look at each other. If this were the final banquets they attended before, there would be no need to ask, they would definitely drink some. But now, is this a point or not? Mr. Shi's eyes lit up. He coughed slightly and was about to speak when his arm was twisted. He quickly shut up and looked over with a pleading look. Zhang Lingzi turned her head and looked at Shen Yunqing. Would you like to order? Look at you. Then order some, I think everyone wants to drink it. When she said this, Zhang Lingzi looked at Mr. Shi who was sitting at the main table. Lao Shi quietly looked back with gratitude. Zhang Xiao, understand him. Director Wei, please order. Zhang Lingzi nodded towards Wei Xiao and took the teacup handed over by Shen Yunqing. His eyes fell on this man's sleeves. The contrast between the dark cherry red fabric and the red clothes and plain wrists is particularly sharp, and there is a bit more of a sense of falling into the world of mortals from the coldness of the world. I rarely see you wearing clothes of this color, she said, not only in this life, but also in the previous life. Why are you suddenly wearing this color today? Happy, Shen Yunqing responded in a low voice, I'm very happy. In the most intimate moment since they met, he felt it clearly. It turns out that he is not the only one who is tempted. How could he not be happy? He was almost overjoyed. From now on, you should only wear this type of color in front of me. Zhang Lingzi said as she clicked on the novel and script that Wei Minmin had just sent to her on her phone. This is the consequence. Besides, there is still Su Qingmei who has not yet been resolved. No one can guarantee that today's closing party will not be photographed by paparazzi and then posted online. Shen Yunqing nodded obediently. Wei Xiao got the idea and opened the drink list in his hand, looking at the red wine, white wine, beer, and wine listed on it. After a quick glance, there were quite a lot of categories. So he raised his head and looked to the opposite side, and was about to ask the two people what kind of drink they wanted to drink, when he saw two people within sight with their faces turned sideways and their heads lowered slightly, not knowing what they were whispering. That kind of atmosphere, I guess I can't even squeeze my head into it. Yes, if you are full of water, he will ask a question. Let's ask other people. End of this chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 380. Chapter 380 Opportunity, Accident. After 3 rounds of drinking, everyone in the box gradually relaxed a little under the influence of alcohol. However, most of them were toasting to Wei Xiao, and no one with eyes came near the hero and heroine. Even Pei Xinyuan, after hesitating for a moment, saw that no one else moved, and gave up the plan to come forward. If she passes by now, she will definitely become the focus of the box. Come, Xin, I'll toast you. Pei Xinyuan turned around and saw the person who came to toast her. She quickly picked up her wine glass and stood up. Teacher Chen, you are a senior, it is my turn to toast you. Why are you so senior? Cheng Qian smiled meaningfully at her. Although your role doesn't have a lot of roles, your character is outstanding and your acting skills are also remarkable. Wait until Empress Yuan Zhao is broadcast, it will definitely become popular. I'd like to lend you your kind words. Pei Xinyuan always felt that the senior in front of him was looking at him a little strangely, and he also suspected that he was a little drunk and had seen it wrong. He responded with a smile based on instinct, and replied smoothly, played by Teacher Cheng. General Ding Yuan is also very majestic. I heard that you also have Sanda skills. No wonder your martial arts performances are so wonderful. I respect you too. Cheng Qian felt so relieved by the compliment that he couldn't help laughing twice, with a proud tone. If I didn't have this skill, Director Wei wouldn't have wanted me. With multiple skills, I would have a lot more than others' chance. The two cups clinked together. Cheng Qian glanced at the foam in Pei Xinyuan's cup and asked, "Beer?" Pei Xinyuan smiled sheepishly, "I'm not a good drinker. White wine has a high alcohol content and red wine has a strong stamina, so I don't dare to drink it. I still need to practice my drinking ability a little bit, as there will be similar occasions in the future." Pei Xinyuan felt a little uncomfortable hearing his preaching tone, and nodded perfunctorily, "I'll try my best. I'll try my best." After finishing the wine in the glass, Pei Xinyuan turned his head and burped. He was about to sit down when he saw that Cheng Qian hadn't left yet. "Teacher Cheng, is there anything else?" "Don't call me Teacher Cheng, Teacher Cheng, just call me Brother Cheng." Cheng Qian dragged a stool from the side and sat down directly next to Pei Xinyuan. "I remember that you are also going to Liangchuan with the group, right?" Pei Xinyuan nodded, still a little confused. "Although I don't have to go to the battlefield and the scenes can be filmed in interiors, the director Wei said that I don't need more than one person, so I might as well just join the team." Cheng Qian lowered his eyes and took stock. "Do you have any other announcements about this drama after you finish filming?" "We'll continue looking after the filming," Pei Xinyuan replied, very single. "I haven't signed a contract with the company, so I'll just go and get the opportunity myself." Just like this time, she fought for it herself. Although it is possible to use this TV series to become a small hit, that will only happen after the show is aired. Before this, she was still a small extra looking for role opportunities in this huge film and television city. Pei Xinyuan's heart suddenly moved when he suddenly met Cheng Gan's eyes. "Brother Cheng, why do you ask me this suddenly? I know you're a busy girl." Cheng Qian poured half a glass of white wine into Pei Xinyuan's glass. "I have a role that suits you right now. It's also a costume drama, but this time you're not playing a maid, but a female number 2, the character is still a princess." Seeing the excitement in Pei Xinyuan's eyes, he continued, "Although the scale and investment of the crew there are incomparable to Director Wei's, the total investment is now almost tens of millions. Anyway, I am very optimistic about it. Yes, I also invested several million." However, Cheng Qian changed his tone. "After all, you are the second female lead and the most important role. It's not enough for me to be optimistic about you alone. If the director is also optimistic about you, then this role will be guaranteed. Look at when you are free. I'll tell the director over there and let you meet in private. I can guarantee that as long as you perform well, this role will definitely be yours. When you come back from Liangchuan, it will be seamless. Join the group." Pei Xinyuan had already gone to hold the glass filled with half a glass of white wine. When he heard his last words, his hand holding the glass stopped. "So fast," she sighed without leaving a trace, and then asked tentatively, "Brother Cheng, what is the name of the play you are talking about, and who is the director? We are in the same crew, do you think I will still trick you? You also know that our girls have to be more vigilant when entering the entertainment industry, so please be patient." Cheng Qian's face softened slightly. "The title of the play is The Little Lady from Shengjing. It has been registered. You can search it online and you can find it." Pei Xinyuan then calmed down and raised his cup. "Thank you, Brother Cheng, appreciate it. I've finished this cup. But I have to go back and check the notices for the past few days to see if I have free time." Cheng Qian nodded and stood up with satisfaction. but remember to do it as soon as possible so that I can arrange a time to meet. There are many actors who are also eyeing the role of the second female lead. I told the director that you are the actor that Director Wei has chosen. He just decided to take the time to meet you. After he left, Pei Xinyuan had no intention of continuing to eat. He picked up his mobile phone and started searching for Shengjing Little Lady. When he saw the official information noted above, it was indeed quite formal, and he suddenly felt calm again. However, she still did not completely let down her guard. Having been struggling in the film and television city for so long, many people have believed that pie in the sky has fallen in front of them. But only when you go to pick it up, you will find the deep pit hidden under the trap. She didn't think she would be so lucky. There is nothing wrong with being vigilant at all times. Asterisk. Zhang Lingzi took a small sip of each wine Shen Yunqing poured for her. She was able to drink 1,000 cups in her previous life, but it is unclear how much alcohol she can handle in her current body. After drinking all the types of wine, she was still only slightly tipsy, and she had an idea. He nodded towards Shen Yunqing, indicating that he could continue drinking. Not to mention, there are so many types of wine, each with its own taste, and they are all pretty good. Shen Yunqing chose a bottle of moderate strength and poured it for her. Zhang Lingzi picked it up and saw that his cup was still empty. You don't drink a drop. She remembered that although this man was not a very good drinker, he still had no problem drinking 2 drinks. Or say, not now. Shen Yunqing immediately raised his eyebrows. Even a man cannot be told that he can't do it, even if he knows what His Majesty means and thinks that his current body cannot handle alcohol anymore. Seeing that Shen Yunqing also poured wine into his own glass, Wei Xiao was just about to go over and have a drink with the two of them when he saw the phone on the table light up. The caller was the production coordinator. Knowing that he was attending the wedding banquet, and calling him at this time, it was an accident. Immediately put down the wine glass, picked up the mobile phone and left the box. Hey, what happened? Director Wei, I didn't mean to disturb you. I also just received the news that the actor who played the Northern Barbarian Prince was in a car accident. Wei Xiao, do you know what's going on with people now? I'm back from the rescue. It's not life-threatening, but I'll have to stay in bed for at least half a year. I'll definitely have to find an actor for this role again. It's hard to find someone who can play this role. Wei Xiao couldn't help but take a deep breath. Where do you think we can find him? The other person cautiously suggested, how about lowering the requirements? We don't want to feel like a mixed race. Just be good looking and in good shape. I should be able to do it with some temporary training in equestrian and other things. I'll give you 3 days. No matter what method you use, try to find an actor who meets the conditions. End of this chapter.